So I've been working this Ruthless Compassion. You know, when you're of us, most of us wind up pretty arrogant about who we are. I mean, I know who I am. I've been like this for whatever the heck, and it's been, and I go through life like this. And for somebody to tell you that maybe that's not who you are, that's tough stuff. And it takes a certain wake up call to recognize that. I don't listen because I've already got and already always listening, so I can't hear what you said, and I can't get over there where you are, etc., etc. I'm going to read you a note from a housekeeper that they hired in 2017, or his wife will tell you exactly when, but I can somewhere in that range. And this is a really competent, able young woman who's who has a son who just graduated from high school and is now in college. And I'm really impressed with the way she came in and started the work. And I told her that I thought that she would go beyond the level at which we hired her. At any rate, what's up, Jim? Here, and thank you. At any rate, here's what she wrote, and I have her permission to read it, of course. She's asked, no, 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 no. I see you have the same communication as I have. She had this transformation. She chose to do something, left her with a transformational experience. And here's what she said. I discovered things in my life I didn't have names for, but were really heavy loads hanging on me and holding me back in many ways. She goes on, I identified with having a sea of opinions on those around me, and that I'm always stuck to judge, so that I've ended up trusting nobody. I've been making up stories about people who hate or dislike me. Who hate or dislike me. My issue with trust has been isolating me. It's pretty brilliant. I mean, makes my hair stand. And then that somebody could be big enough to be that straight. At any rate, she said, I'm looking at things differently now, and I'm on a journey to opening up more, and also allow people to speak in my life. Many, many, many wars inside me have ceased. A new language is forming, and a person of integrity is emerging now, just speaking about the experience, new experience of herself. This experience of herself, she says, it's unique and inspiring. So sorry, this is going to take a few minutes. Now that's that part. Here's the second part. The second part is I've had the privilege of working with people in prisons. As a matter of fact, right there in California, San Quentin, lots of people, lots of guys in there with sentences of life without hope of parole. And before you go in there, you sign a statement that you understand that the state of California will not trade something for you should you be taken hostage. It keeps you wide awake, see? Any rate, what I learned from working with those men in prison is that they were succeeding in life. The wall was there, and the wall was there, but they had a television, they had a kid, and they had two guys that watched their back, and they had food from the commissary. Now, I realize that many people actually live in that kind of prison, maybe not quite that bad, but we somehow find a way, and certainly I found a way to get by with all of the limitations that I had in my life. And so, yeah, that's for me called ruthless compassion. And I think we go about our and live our lives, and that we think that's a life. And the result, though many times is that we stop really seeing, and then we expect a lot from others after we've created this narrative. One of the things that we were talking about was that, you know, we have these experiences in our lives, and that we think how we register that experience is the picture of the experience, right? But we forget that that experience is actually a canvas that we paint, and we paint it with our emotions, and that gets cataloged, and every time we look at it, it's not the event, it's how we painted the event. It's and you know is interesting and really brought it forward to me. One time, as someone was explaining to me, and they said, so you're sitting with somebody who's very aggressive towards you, but if you really had the insight and put yourself in their position, you would agree that you're a jackass. And suddenly this light bulb went on, that in fact we think our narrative is the correct narrative. And when we talk about ruthless compassion, it's not to diminish, I think, our experience per se, but to understand that an event in and of itself has no power whatsoever. It is the emotion that we paint it with that gives us the power over our lives. And what was freeing for me was at age 12, a woman gave me that insight, because in my own situation, I felt, and I tell people, I felt like I was a leaf blowing in the wind, because I had no control. I was 12. My father was an alcoholic. My mother was an envelope. She was chronically depressed, had attempted suicide, and we're in public assistance. We have been evicted. We didn't always have food. And I only tell you that because I kept said either there's something wrong with me, or this event occurred and it was their fault. Mm. And this is a tendency we all have to act this way. And after spending time with this woman at age 12, which I mentioned in my book, if you want to, I suddenly realized, again, I had painted all these experiences that made me a victim, that allowed me to sit and say, well, only this happened. Only if this happened. Oh, I can't do this because that didn't happen. Or I had this immense anger towards all these people about my situation. And then suddenly, after this, when I got this insight, I wasn't angry at anybody. And there was this most incredible gift. It wasn't to say these weren't bad experiences on some level, but I wasn't angry at the events, and I was allowed to just see them and to sit with them. And that fundamental experience, which I think in so many ways, and what's the work that you have done, was what released me from my prison. What I found was that when I changed how I saw this narrative I had created, which had anger, hostility, fear, actually, and took that away, I did not understand what I was doing in my environment, because how I stood, how I reacted, how I responded had an effect on every other individual who interacted with me. And so when I no longer reacted that way to the world no longer reacted in a negative way to me. And that was freedom. Yeah, and I mean, yeah, and that for me is a perfect illustration of what you can do to leave yourself free to be an act. And that's what I heard. And what you said, that through the interaction you had with the woman, told me more about it last night, left you being free to act. Yeah, and for the last, I don't know how long, maybe 30 years, maybe 40 now, I can't remember. the way I've been talked about what drives me is to discover a new meaning for what it means to be human rather than whatever it has meant up until now. Certainly includes all of the in my life, and I'd like to see us make available to each other a new meaning for what it is to be human, and that leads me to a more practical entry into it, and that is, who am I really? And it's not who am I really, but who is this I that's all over the place, all over the room? Really, who, with what is it to be I, really? Or what is it to be itself? And, one of the things that got loosened in that experience coming across the Golden Gate was the importance of I and the centrality of me. So it's been a guy 50 years, and I don't know how long. I can't remember doing this exercise of discovering. And that is a large part of what has generated the kind of work that I do. I avoid figuring it out, and I've learned to say it a couple different ways of learn to sit with it or just look at it. So most people say, well, this is good thinking. No, this is good looking as far as I'm concerned, good seeing. And it takes some time to be with it, to sit with it, to just perceive it, just look at it, see what arises in being with it. And one of the things that's really become clear to me, Jim, is the centrality. And you've just illustrated it, the centrality of reducing the significance of what's going on with me internally. And it's one of my favorite conversations with people is to recognize, well, that don't figure it out and don't tell me what you've learned and don't tell me what you've read. Tell me as you sit there, as you be with yourself, what is going on with you internally. And one of the things, as you pointed out, that I think all of us will discover, because as far as I can tell, the same stuff is going on with every one of us internally. One of the things going on with people internally is what Damasio calls emotion. And what he likes to say is feeling a subjective level of, okay, great, yeah. And I think that's quite true now. The problem is most people go through life, and didn't say anybody believes this. I said most people go through life that they are what's going on with them internally. I don't like it. I am angry. I am annoyed. I am happy. I am satisfied. This is who I am. Not I'm being angry. Not I'm being happy. No, I am happy. I'm not being happy. Yeah, now. So just to mention some of the others, most of us have an outlook on life, or an attitude, or whatever you'd like to call it, a frame for woman, or a frame for old man, a frame for this and a frame for that. So let's call that a mental state. And the other one is in an emotional state, and there seems to me always to be a bodily state, and then there's the incessant thoughts mixed in every once in a while with a memory. And as far as I can tell, and you have more to say about this than I, but as far as I can tell, because he's talking to a neurosurgeon, I have no dominion over what's going on with me internally. That somehow, some way, there it is. And I don't think that's who I am. I mean, I don't believe that I am, but I tend to go through life that is who I am. And it's ridiculously simple if that's true. Now, by the way, somebody will always say, yes, Lee, but another thing going on with me internally is my perceptions. Your perceptions are about what's going on externally. So let's just leave those out for a moment and leave it as the simple minded floor. I got four things going on with me internally: mental state, emotional state, bodily state, and thoughts mixed in with some feelings. Now, I just made a horrible mess out of four simple distinctions. I can't I just can't believe it. If you talk to people, the stories that they have about how they're angry and put upon and not appreciated and blah, 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 blah. But that's not, but that's all what's going on with me internally. And the people I work with, my colleagues, and one of whom's sitting in the room there in this video that I've transcribed, he and I work on this thing. Well, let's discover, not figure it out, let's discover what's going on with me internally. And, let's not take it for granted. Let's not obvious it. I like Heidegger's notion of tranquilized obviousness. Transformation, mere high level ontological inquiry. Tranquilized obviousness or complacency is the comfortable, uncritical state of everyday existence where people accept the world and public norms as completely natural, safe, and fully understood without ever questioning the deeper meaning of being. Creates everyday absorption, naturally lose themselves in the publicness or the crowd, false sense of security, soothing self-assurance that everything is normal or in order, and it's inauthentic because the state prevents people from confronting their true potential individuality and the fragile groundlessness of existence. Groundlessness. I watch couples, they tend to in that direction. Oh, yeah, sure, that's true. No, at any rate, here's my point. My point is that one of the things that enabled the work and one of the things that I share with other people, and one of the things I'm ruthless about, is discover for yourself what is going on with you internally. And I use the word discover because if you look it up in the dictionary, it's to be struck with wonder at whatever this is. Yeah, holy mackerel, what's going on with me internally is simple, uncomplicated, jumbled up if I like it that way. I have no call on it. Nothing, zero. I can't be angry. I can't be sad. I can't stop thinking. Yeah, if it's you thinking, stop it. Yeah, no, people don't do that. They don't stop thinking. They think about not thinking, maybe, but that's more thinking. Yeah, so I find that for me is the first step into freedom to be and the freedom to act. And the other half of it, I'm going to shut up in a minute, Jim. Now, no, the other I enjoyed myself is I'm thinking of, wow, you're good. And the other half of it is what Descartes left us with. Descartes is the guy who was looking for what was truly real. He doubted everything he came up with. He doubted he could find a way to doubt that was valid. And he finally, as we all know, couldn't stop that. He couldn't get rid of that doubting, because if he tried to doubt the doubting, he was still doubting. Okay, so now then he concluded, man, human beings are sorry. This is this is translating the Latin, is thinking things. Human beings are thinking things, object things, substances he got from Aristotle. But never mind thinking things. I am a thinking thing. The one thing he didn't doubt was the I he came up with. He forgot to doubt this I stuff. He said, I am thinking thing. I am a thinking thing. Therefore I am. I think, therefore I am. Yeah. I had just said that I think I'm there for you. Yeah. No, all he had a right to say is, what I'm left with is doubting, not a subject that doubts. Yeah, so it's, I think, the second half of this journey into the freedom to be, in the freedom to act, is to start to question, what is it I'm referring to when I say I? And the last story, and I'm going to shut up, and this is, I want on a train from the airport in Tokyo into Tokyo on the train with a woman who interprets for me in Japan. And Yumi is the most skeptical human being. She's not, she's amongst the most skeptical. She's not going to believe anything. So I asked her, I want you to find the thing you call I. I want you to find it for me. And Yumi was, of course, skeptical. There was that, obviously. She was going to find the I. It was who she was. So there it had to be somewhere. And but when she got to the event, she sheepishly told me, I looked all over and I couldn't find the damn thing. Now that's one pretty tough to give up this significance about I. Yeah. And to give it its proper place, which is okay. Life is a game to some degree, like Monopoly, and you have a piece to play. You got like a Scotty dog or a top hat, a race car, and this I is useful and a piece with which I play the game. That's, I probably said way too much. No, not enough. But hey, just speaking of this, and speaking of, you were commenting about, you have this narrative, if you will, going on. I think that, and this was my experience, and I think often the experience of many, as you have this dialogue, but you think that dialogue, sorry, just saying goodbye to a friend. This is my dear friend Charlie Wilson, who was one of the most iconic neurosurgeons in the world. Charlie, thanks for coming. Thank you, Charlie. It's so nice to have so many friends who come to these and to see who you get to see and interact with, and who actually had profound effects on your own life. But this issue of this talk in your head, what so many of us do is, hi, this is Tamara. There's a good friend of mine. Hello, Kate. Thank you for what happened. For so many of us, is that this is a dialogue that goes on in our head. We think that this dialogue is us. We listen to it and we believe it. And what happens is, though, like how many people that dialogue that constantly is going on in your head says how great you are. I can feel it off you. It obviously, you guys are narcissistic of kidding, of course. But for so many of us, that dialogue is very negative, hypercritical, condemnation. And what it is, though, is, as a species, we have a tendency to respond to stuff that's negative because it's threatening. But the problem is, we process that into our head, and it says, I'm not good. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough, etc., etc., etc. And then the I we talked about is, and when you say, I can't do this, And the other thing is, how many of you have had friends or people close to you say, you know, I want to do this, and they look at you're never going to do this. Have any of you had that experience? And isn't it horrible, people who you look to, people who love people, who you care about, people who you think are important will tell you things like that. And it's very sad because what they're telling you is that they can't do it, but they don't want you to do it. And the thing is, we process this and we say that it's us. We couldn't possibly do it. And when we're talking about prisons, when you start listening to this, this creates this prison brick by brick by brick that encloses you in this very narrow thing that you can't get past. Each of us has this incredible potential. And when you change that dialogue, or you don't believe in that dialogue, or you stop reacting to that dialogue, everything changes in your life. And every interaction you have changes. And the thing that is absolutely critical of that, when you understand that though, is you remember how powerful words that you say, and you try to remind yourself of the person who said that to you and hurt you, because how many of you can recall it experience even 20, 30 years ago where somebody said something to you and you remember it to this day because it hurt you so badly. And then and the thing is, you don't have to carry it with you. You're free to release it, but it's so hard to do. And what they said to you wasn't truth. And the thing is, though, you can give the same gift, not of hypercritical words, but words of acceptance, words of love. Because what happens so often, because of this narrative, we become judgmental, right? Because we have this stuff going on. So we have to categorize everybody, and we hurt them. And we don't even know it, you know? I was talking to a woman the other day, and I was giving a talk, and she came up to me and she said that this is 30 years later because my father told me I wasn't smart enough, in her case, to be adverse. And actually, this was an event where I was speaking to nurses. Okay, but imagine this poor woman carried around this. Now, in some ways, it empowered her, but the empowerment came at a great cost to her every day. You should be empowered. The words of love, Washington Irving said tears are precious things. He said that in tears speak more than 10,000 tongues, and that the message of tears is one of love. People say, geez, sometimes you tear up when you're in front of people, but that's okay. You see, because so often we think that we can't show our emotion. Like, you can't show your pain. You can't show your heart or your hurt. And it's okay, but again, it comes about judgment. Know how we think other people judge. Like I had a person say I was giving a talk and I become fearful. And this woman says, I could be with you for 2 hours and get rid of that. She was a psychologist, and I can be with you and take everything that is human about you, connect with another person away from you, and saying that makes you human. That thing that makes you connect, that the thing that makes you feel another person's pain, I can take that. I can take from you in 2 hours if you want. But tears are powerful. Tears connect tears, are love. And each of you can give so much to another person by not judging them, and more importantly, not judging yourself. All right, we'll continue. Peace, love, bye.